Hello, I'm Daniela Leon, the young ambassador from Inspiring Girls Switzerland. We have started a new series of interviews called Inspiring Interviews, where I ask questions to role models in various fields to showcase as many careers available as possible to us young girls. Today I'm interviewing Christiane, who works as Chief Product Officer in Awina. Hello, Christiane. I'm so excited that you will be here today.
Me too.
Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. So as you said, my name is Christiane. I am 30 years old. I'm French and German, but I've been living in Switzerland for the last 7 years. And I'm the Chief Product Officer at Awina. It's a startup that helps families pay for daycare. And in my spare time, I love reading, I love learning languages, and I'm a volunteer firefighter. Although I don't do that at the moment because I'm 8 months pregnant and there's a limit to everything.
So is that for your first child? Or
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you just said you speak a lot of languages. How many do you speak?
Well, it's always a matter of like how well you speak them. I say that I can work in 5. So it's French and German and English I grew up with, and then I learned Hebrew and Spanish. And then there's those that you dabble in for love. So Italian I've learned, and did some Arabic, and now I'm really deep into Japanese, which will take me a while because it's a very difficult language, full of challenges.
Yeah, I can imagine. And why did you learn so many languages? So what motivated you?
So, I mean, I had the luck that I grew up already with the 2 cultures. So my mom is French, my father's German, and I grew up moving around between countries. So I always was exposed to how different people think. And for me, languages are a way to get through to people that otherwise you wouldn't meet. Because if we all only speak English together, or if I only speak to people who also speak French or also German, then the kind of people you get exposed to is very limited. And so for me, traveling and realizing, I backpacked through South America for 3 months, and I was like, wow, huge continent here. Like if I speaking Spanish, I learned Spanish for the trip, meant that I was able to communicate with them and talk to them and get all these different viewpoints. And I think it's so important to get to know these different people and get out of the little bubble that you grow up in.
Yeah, that is such a great way to think about it. And so you just said professionally you can work in 5 languages. So did that help you in your career, that you know that many?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think only languages is not that useful. You still need some hard skills behind that, unless you want to work as a translator or as a language teacher. But I'm thinking when I was a graduate trainee in a big Swiss bank, they were looking for somebody who would understand Swiss culture and know European culture, but also spoke Hebrew. And that's kind of rare. And I said, well, I'm here. And I was like 22, 23 years old. And they ended up sending me to their office in Israel for 6 months so I could work on some projects there and be the bridge between Europe and the Middle East, which has that very different working cultures. And so therefore, sure, at 23, I got this opportunity that usually you wouldn't get at that age just because I happened to speak fluent Hebrew.
And so going back to the professional side, when did you realize you wanted to be in that career? Like you wanted to have that job?
I mean, that's it's a really tough question because now looking back, everything I did somehow made sense and brought me to where I am. But if you ask me when I was 13 or 14, I wanted to go to Hogwarts and be a witch. Like that was my career goal. I had no idea, what I wanted to do. And then I think the most important thing for me was that I took new opportunities. So yes, I studied a certain thing, but then I worked in a different field and I switched fields again, going from nonprofits to banking to trying all kinds of different things to meet again those different people with different mindsets. And in the end, I ended up finding something that it's just something that I like doing, but also that I'm good at and, that pays the bills. And I think that's the sort of perfect system that you have where all these things work out for you. But it took a lot of traveling and meeting people and learning and lots of years of trying different things to be able to do what I'm doing today. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would have had no idea.
Yeah, That's perfect. And is that the reason why you work now in Awina?
Yeah, so with Awina, it's for me, it's both personal and professional. So when I was working in like traditional corporate banking at the UBS in Switzerland, I realized that, I was 22, 23, 24, and I realized that all these, my role models, the women, somehow when they started turning 30 and having children, they would, like their career would sort of go to the wayside. It wouldn't be so important anymore. They would come back, but only 3 days a week, things like that. And I was like, well, how is that possible? We're a modern country, we're feminism, we have equality, and how can it be that somehow all the big jobs are, it's only men? Where did all the women go? And then I looked into that and I realized, well, it's a daycare issue. So childcare is so expensive in Switzerland that all these, beautifully educated women decide to stay home and watch their children instead of going back to the office. And so with Awina, the idea was, well, if we can help these women just bridge the phase where the children are really young by lending them the money to pay for daycare, then they can keep their options open and have a real choice. Like, do I want to work or do I not want to work? And not just say, well, there's no point working because all the money I make, I have to pay for the babysitter.
Yeah, so that's what motivated you to change into
Yes, exactly. I wanted to feel like, it's a modern society, we're in the modern world. We should be able to have free choices and not have these choices just be financial.
Yeah, no, that's great. I completely agree with that. And when you have your own child, are you going to keep working 100%?
So everybody tells me don't promise things before you have the child, because apparently the hormones and everything, things change. But that is the goal, yes. I mean, I wouldn't preach one thing and do another. My goal is to work at least 80 or 100%. And of course, it's not just me, it's me and my partner. So we both share we'll both share the childcare loads. So we'll both maybe take 1 day off a week to watch the child and then put the child in daycare maybe 3 or 4 days a week and have a healthy mix like that.
Yeah,
but,
so
ask me again when the baby's born.
Yeah, that's a great example. Is there something, like, coming back to the job, is there something that you really like or dislike about your job right now?
Bridging that, the conversation from having a child, I think the one thing that is great is that it's a small team and a lot of them have children and have had young children. So this whole flexibility of like having a mother, a new mother, having a role like the chief product officer and making that work, I think is really special, because some other companies, they would just say, oh, well, that's not my problem that you have a child, so figure it out. Whereas here it's like, okay, let's figure this out, because we want it to be possible to have a career and to have a family without having this type of career where you never see your children either. But in general, what I really like, I mean, it's not quite Hogwarts, but in general, we help families balance, the work life with their family life. And I really like especially that, I spend every day empowering women. It starts with girls, then I grow into women, into mothers and whatever. And, we can show them how much they can achieve if they want to, So like you said, in Switzerland, the base model is very often stay-at-home mother, or you're at home and you work 1 or 2 days a week, just because that's how everybody did it. And that's all you see and that's all you know. And we want to show them, hey, the world is big. There are many options out there. Maybe you want to do something else. And if you do, we want to help you with that. Yeah,
definitely. Also, it's really good that you work in this, because the daycare is really expensive. I've had some experience in one, and it was definitely hard for the mothers. So going further back in time, when you were a child, were you a good student?
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I weren't. Like, I was one of those goody two-shoes. I loved my teachers. I loved reading. I loved school. I did homework in the summer holidays. Yeah, that's just the kind of kid that I was. And I think especially one thing that I was good at was following rules, which can be dangerous later in life because it sort of makes it hard to be creative and innovative. But school, yeah, I mean, I liked it. So I tried a lot of different schools because I moved around a lot. But in general, it was a good experience, and I liked learning a lot.
And what was the most important subject that you studied, or like the most important skill?
So I was mostly towards the end in the French school system, where you have a lot of subjects, and I really like that because it gives you such a diverse knowledge. I did a lot of sciences, but a lot of English literature as well, and the languages and everything. So I really like that whole breadth of experience. I don't know if I would say that there's like one subject that was super useful for later, because unless I didn't become like a biologist or a math teacher or something like that. But in general, the ability to know how to sit down and learn and take on a project and be focused and see it through to the end, that's something that I think you have to, well, it's really good if you can learn that in school. Because all the actual fields, a lot of the jobs that exist today, like my job, you can't learn that in school. Or if you look at the influencers and TikTokers or whatever, like they didn't learn that in school either, right? It doesn't mean you don't have to go to school. It just means don't go to school just to do your homework and learn and get good grades, but learn how to learn about yourself, and then use that to later keep learning throughout your entire life.
Yeah, and where you work now, since it's also for women, are there a few women that work there or more women than men?
In my studies, it was still very much 50-50, maybe more women, because it was political science, so it's, not the hard sciences. But then when I went into banking, and especially into IT in banking, it would happen very often. I would be in a big room, 20 men and me. And that's something I had to get used to. But also now, like as a volunteer firefighter, it's not the most, doesn't have the most women in the field. Maybe 40-50 guys in a unit and 3 or 4 women, and that's something I had to get used to. And our current company, it's more towards 50-50 the split, and it's kind of fun because you get more balance in the way you make decisions. You get more opinions into it.
And why do you think few girls go into banking?
Banking generally, I think it depends on the field. There's a lot of girls in HR and marketing, and then maybe sales, and it's, I think. But in general, all those fields that have heavy gender stereotypes, like instances or banking or firefighting or whatever, I think it's really hard to be something that you can't see. So if you don't see any female firefighters, are you gonna think, oh yeah, I can be a firefighter? Like, no, it's not really gonna cross your mind. It's just easier to make the same decisions everybody around you takes. And it's hard to take a step back and think, well, what do I like? What do I want to do? And it goes both ways. I work a lot now with daycares, and it is like there's so few boys and men who work in early education.
Yeah.
It's so great for the kids, because they get way more like different interactions if they have male caregivers and male teachers. But imagine you're a 16-year-old boy and you have all your buddies that are like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a gardener, I want to be a pilot or carpenter. And you're like, oh, I like playing with babies, and I want to, watch children and spend my day with little kids and helping them learn about the world. It's really hard to do that. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and say, this is what I want to do. But then the more people break the stereotypes, the more you inspire others to follow, So like we do sessions like these, and people are like, oh, look, there are more women in IT or in technology than I thought. Maybe I can also do this.
And so talking about this, what would be an advice that you would give to other girls that want to follow your path?
In general, like I said, is there really a clear path? No, I can't say if you do this and this and this, then you will be exactly like I am, and that's great. Not at all. Because if I'm being honest, like I said, the path jumped from left to right? But I think the main thing is that life is really long. It's short in many ways, but it's really long, and you have so much time to try things out. And I remember, because I was in school and I finished high school really young, and then I was so afraid about I didn't want to lose 1 year of my life to do something else, like a Zwischenjahr, like a year doing abroad. And I was like, no, I have to do my high school diploma, and then my bachelor, and then my master's. Then okay, great. I was 22 and I had a master's degree, and I was like, good, that's great on paper, but I had no idea what I want to do with my life, right? So it's more take time to figure out what do you like doing. And then find those people. If your environment is not one that's encouraging you to try these things, then find new people who will inspire you to do that, Because if you think now, oh, everybody does it this way, maybe that's just the bubble you're in, and somewhere else it's different, right? So I guess the main thing is learn to become independent with your interests and your passions, also with your money, because Like that's something I really hope to give to my daughter one day, is like, hey, have your own power, your own money, your own, it means having more choices. You can make your own choices. And that's in the end what you really want to have, is that independence.
Yeah, it was really interesting listening you talk about your life and your progress. And I think I'm going to take that advice. I'm definitely going to take that advice of not only having one option and that life is done. I really like that one. So thank you so much for being in this interview with us and telling us about your work and your progress.
Thank you so much for your questions, Daniela, and for your time.